Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about immigrant assimilation and integration to the West. So all these immigrants coming from third world basket case countries coming to the West, why wouldn't they? They come from these diabolical, corrupt shitholes and come to a comparatively, at least, well-run, well-ordered, well-organised place where they're given plenty of free stuff. So who wouldn't seriously consider something like that? So, but in terms of so this is the West choosing immigrants. There's very little choice going on these days. As long as you're black and brown and illiterate, then that's it. You can come to the West. There doesn't seem to be much more than that, unless you're white. But if you're white, you've got to really climb across and walk across hot coals and jump through endless hoops if you want to go to another Western country. But none of those requirements, quite stringent requirements, apply if you're illiterate and black and brown. So especially if you arrive illegally, it's all laid on then. But I got a sort of couple of messages about the video I did yesterday about Indian immigrants and this idea, well, have you got something against Indians? Well, no, not at all. Far from it. If anyone from anywhere in the world, if they've got needed skills needed, in this case Australia, but it could apply to America or Britain or wherever. But if any attended immigrant has needed skills, internationally recognised qualification skills, not some diploma from the University of Ouagadougou or something, but we're talking a real internationally recognised qualification, and those skills are needed and can't be provided by local training or those sorts of things, and very little efforts being done on that. For example, why aren't mechanics with 10 years experience or something like that being offered a 2-year bridging course to become mechanical engineers? Same with electricians and so on. Why isn't there fast tracking there for those sort of people, and maybe government assistance? That's a far better way of doing it than bringing people out from goodness knows where. Now, the third world countries have precious few highly qualified people who aren't part of the rich elite of those countries. Very few. And should they be staying in their own countries to try and help those countries be less of corrupt basket case shitholes? Shouldn't they be staying there to help that? But putting that aside for one moment, they've got the skills, they've got the qualifications, internationally recognised, and they want to come to a Western country, say Australia, and they apply for a permit to come to Australia as a resident or to become an immigrant, and they go through the proper channels. And it doesn't matter where they come from, brown or black, I don't care if they meet the criteria. But importantly, they want to integrate and become Australian. They don't want to live in ghettos of their own racial groups. They actually want to come and integrate. They want their daughters to marry local white boys and their sons to marry local white girls, and so on. To integrate. They want to have white friends over to their houses. They want to go to the houses of white friends. And they want to mix with the white people at multiple social levels. So I got no problem with that. As many of those people want to come in as meet that criteria, should be at least entertained at the application level. No problem with that at all. None. So what's the problem I have with the Indians? None on a racial basis. It's their behaviours that I have the issue with. They don't integrate, don't want to integrate, don't assimilate, don't want to assimilate. That's number one. They want to have a racial economy, a sub-economy within the Australian economy, where the money moves exclusively in Indian circles. Money they spend, happy to take money from white people, but want to spend. So they're using, they buy out lots of franchise operations, and then use labor hire scams to bring out peasants from India to work in them. They're not paying taxes and that sort of those sorts of things. They just don't want to be part of the local show. No intention of being. Even Indians that are born here and or have been here for generations, they want to keep their genetic pool completely pure and 100% Indian. I mean, if the white people did that, they'd be accused of being Hitler and Nazi and everything. But if black or brown people do, who cares? So that's the problem I've got. I mean, just to sort of further go further on this point. There's a family, an Indian family, came out. I think it was in the late '60s, somewhere around there, and the father was a medical doctor who got his degree in London University, I think it was. So it's internationally recognised. And he wanted to come to Australia, and his children were 2 and 4 years old, for example. So they came. So they don't remember anything of India, and they've only ever known schools and the situation in Australia. Now, at the time, very few Indians were coming in, very few. There was a shortage, I remember, of science teachers in high school, and they tried to quickly fill that by bringing out people from internationally. And they went to the third world countries to get people. I remember briefly had a science teacher at high school. I think it was Sharma or something. But he was actually a lecturer at one of the Indian universities in I don't know, physics or chemistry or something or other. And he, but the best job he could get was to be a science teacher for junior high school in a state government schools. That was the best he could get. But he admitted that he was still quite a bit better off than he was in India. And a very sharp dresser, I remember. But coming back to this family that arrived, they came at a young age, but the children both sent back to India for brides and husbands. They didn't marry, didn't marry into the way. They were the only people, Indians in the school, certainly in the street that they lived in, and so there's a lot of pressure to integrate when you're the only sort of person, only people from India there. You've only got white people around you, yet they still didn't integrate. They still sent back even though they were like 2 and 4 years old when they came to Australia, they'd have never known anything other than white people, but they still sent back to brides and husbands for the village that they'd come from, even though they had quite a cosmopolitan, sophisticated father. The doctor studied in Oxford and studied in London and so on. Like, the guy had been around, and yet still they didn't integrate. And you'd look at that on the face and say, he's got an international degree, very cosmopolitan, children are young, they're going to come here, they won't be going into some racial ghetto or something. Still, they didn't integrate. So they clearly they just refused to integrate and refused to do business outside of their own community and this sort of thing. They only attend Indian shops if they can and this sort of stuff. It's only really the national chain supermarkets that they shop in. If there's a local, mechanics, a car servicing area where one of the mechanics are Indian, they'll go there and this sort of stuff. They're very, very loyal to their genetic group, but they're not loyal to Australia or to the country or to the customs and habits here. So that's why I think Indians are probably some of the worst immigrants you possibly could get because of that. Not because they're intrinsically bad or something like that, but they have a lot of trouble letting go of their corruption. Is a way of life in India. It is just a way of life. You can't look sideways or have a shit without having to bribe somebody. And when they come to Australia, they just can't let go of those habits. They just can't. They just can't find the off button. And so that also is an issue. So on balance, they're not good immigrants. If immigrants who, and the West should, it's not and probably never will now, but should place a premium, in my view, on people that want to integrate or want to be part of the local society. And if somebody has got qualifications and so on, but they don't want to integrate and want to want to only hang out with their own racial group, then they're not good immigrants. Why bring them in, for goodness sakes? Now, even the and just looking at the I was sitting next to this woman at a dinner once, and she was waxing lyrical about how evil and wicked and racist and Nazi and fascist and everything white Australians were. And it's okay, well, all right, let's suppose that's true. Let's suppose they are. Like, I don't agree with that, but let's suppose that's the case. Now, you've been here since you were 2 years old. You've been at school with only white kids, and yet you don't want anything to do with white people. You don't have white friends. You've married. You sent back to the village. So, you only met your husband sort of once and briefly before you got married. The only requirement was that he was Indian and from that village. And, you've got your children are now in high school, and you already have arranged marriages for them with Indians, again, from your village. You only have Indians over to your house. Your house is decked out like you're still living in India. When you don't mix with white people, you walk around in Indian clothes, and you've got all the Indian gods and the Rams and that sort of stuff. You're very much Indian, even though you left there when you were 2 years old. Your kids have never lived there; they were born here, and yet you're saying everyone else is racist to you. Why do you want to live so separately and so distinctly Indian when you're in another country? Why would you want to do that, but say that everyone else is racist? That doesn't make sense. Oh, well, Hitler and Nazi, fascist. There was no answer to that. It was just, all white people are racist because they're inferior to us. And she had this real sense of superiority, as indeed the husband did, and the elder brother did. So they've got no intention of integrating. Maybe in future generations they will. But if you look at, say, the Indians that came to Fiji in the 1840s and 1850s, a tiny proportion of them, over the 180 odd years since they've been in Fiji, the integration rate is about 2%. So clearly they don't want to integrate when they go to other places. And fine, that's fine. If that's what they want to do, but it comes back to the point that makes them bad immigrants. Why would you choose people who willfully will not assimilate, will not integrate, and want to run effectively a separate country within your country? Why would you want that? It can only lead to disaster and unpleasantness and discord. And why would you want that? So now, these Indians can agree that look, the white countries are better run. There's not these religious riots. You don't walk across dead bodies in the street. You've got, there's more room, more space. It's cleaner. It's a better place for kids to grow up. And they admit sort of all of those things, but still say it's evil, wicked, racist, and Nazi, and fascist, and Hitler, and so on. And I don't get how those two thoughts can coexist. But again, it comes back to why bring people in who don't want to integrate or assimilate and believe the native population is spiritually and morally inferior. It's insane to do it, and they shouldn't be doing it. Now, when you want to look at there maybe are Indians or from anywhere in the world that do want to integrate, that do have skills, that can make a contribution, and they should be welcomed at any time. In Australia's case, I doubt if you'd get more than 10 to 15,000 a year. But even then, I doubt you'd get any more than that, and that's fine. That's fine if those people, want to come and again have the skills and they want to integrate. That's okay. So that's my view on that. But as do I have a particular thing against Indians? Not at all, far from it. I just don't think they're good immigrants. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.